The apartment at 91 Neilson Drive in Scarborough, Ontario was small, cold, and always slightly too loud. Neighbors through thin walls, traffic through single-pane windows. Noah Aryan Malik was born there in 1996, the son of a factory worker named Aryan Malik and a school cafeteria supervisor named Linda Malik. The fridge was never fully empty, but it was never fully full either. Noah grew up understanding one thing above everything else. That comfort in his house was something you earned every single week, and it could disappear by Friday if something went wrong. But the boy who grew up in that cold apartment was already building something inside his mind that no one around him could see yet. Aryan Malik worked 6 days a week at a plastics manufacturing plant on Markham Road from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., came home smelling like chemicals, ate dinner in 15 minutes, and fell asleep in his chair by 8 p.m. He never complained, not once, in Noah's entire childhood. That silence, that dignified, exhausted, unspoken sacrifice became the loudest thing Noah ever heard. At 12 years old, watching his father sleep in that chair, Noah made a decision that had no words yet, but lived in his chest like a fire. His father would not die tired. The son of a factory worker decided that his father's sacrifice would not be wasted, and he meant it with every single cell in his body. Noah was the kid in every classroom who asked why. Not to be difficult, but because he genuinely could not accept an answer that didn't make logical sense. His grade 7 teacher at Joseph Branch Public School, a tired man named Mr. Stern, Ellison, once told Noah to stop overthinking and just follow the instructions. Noah went home that evening, opened his father's old laptop, and spent 3 hours researching why the instructions existed in the first place. That pattern, question everything, research everything, accept nothing at face value, would later become the exact quality that allowed him to build something nobody in his neighborhood had ever built before. The quality that made Noah difficult in a classroom would one day make him unstoppable in a boardroom. When Noah was 14, his uncle Rahim, his father's younger brother who worked in IT support, gave the family a second-hand Dell laptop with a cracked hinge and a battery that only lasted 40 minutes unplugged. For Noah, it was like receiving a portal. Within 2 weeks, he had taught himself basic HTML from free tutorials online. Within 2 months, he had built a crude but functional website for a fictional restaurant just to see if he could. Within 6 months, he had learned enough CSS and basic JavaScript to build 3 more. He was 14 years old, working on a cracked laptop at the kitchen table in Scarborough, and he had just discovered the thing he was born to do. That cracked Dell laptop with the broken hinge was worth less than $50, and it was the most valuable thing Noah Aryan Malik would ever receive. While his classmates at R.H. King Academy spent their lunch hours in the cafeteria, Noah spent his in the computer lab, building, coding, reading, and slowly assembling a plan that existed only in his own head. By grade 11, he had freelanced his first real website for a local Scarborough bakery called Rania's, charging $200 for something that took him 3 weeks and was worth 10 times that. He did not celebrate. He opened a separate bank account, deposited the $200, labeled it Foundation, and went back to the computer lab the next day. He was 16 years old and already operating like a man with somewhere specific to be. At 16, while everyone else was figuring out who they were, Noah Aryan Malik already knew exactly what he was building. He just hadn't told anyone yet. Everyone assumed Noah would go to university. His marks were good enough for computer science at University of Toronto. His teachers recommended it. His parents quietly hoped for it. But Noah had done the math. 4 years, $40,000 in student debt, a degree that certified skills he already had, entering a job market at 22 to work for someone else building their vision. He sat his parents down at the kitchen table in the spring of 2014 and told them he was not going. His mother Linda cried quietly. His father Tariq looked at him for a long time and then said 3 words, "Don't waste it." Noah never forgot those 3 words for a single day of the decade that followed. The most important university Noah Aryan Malik ever attended had no campus, no tuition, and no graduation ceremony, and it taught him everything that mattered. From 18 to 20, Noah Aryan Malik worked every hour that existed. He freelanced websites and web apps for small businesses across Toronto, charging between $500 and $2,500 per project, delivering fast, delivering clean, and reinvesting almost everything he earned back into tools, courses, and a second-hand MacBook that didn't have a cracked hinge. He worked from the kitchen table, then from a $180 a month hot desk at a Scarborough co-working space, then eventually from a corner of his bedroom at 91 Neilson Drive with a monitor he bought used off Kijiji for $45. He told no one he was building a company. Because technically he wasn't yet. He was building the skills, the reputation, and the savings that a company would eventually require. Noah wasn't building a startup yet. He was building the foundation that a startup would one day stand on, one freelance project at a time. In the winter of 2017, Noah was 21 years old and working on a freelance project for a mid-sized Toronto logistics company when he noticed something. The company was spending $200 a month on 3 different software subscriptions to manage tasks that one well-built internal tool could handle for a fraction of the cost. He mentioned it to the operations manager. The operations manager said, "If you can build that, I'll pay you $15,000. Noah went home, spent 11 days building the tool, delivered it, and received the largest single payment of his life. Then he sat very still for a long time, because he had just discovered something more valuable than the $15,000. He had discovered that businesses had problems they would pay generously to solve, and he knew how to solve them. That $15,000 payment wasn't the prize. It was the signal that Noah Aryan Malik had been waiting his entire life to receive. With $22,000 saved and a validated idea, Noah Aryan Malik incorporated his first company in March 2018. Arcline Technologies Inc., registered in Ontario from a 27 Service Ontario online form filled out at his kitchen table. He had no office, no team, no investors. He had a product concept, a lightweight business operations software platform designed specifically for small and medium Canadian businesses that were being overcharged by enterprise solutions built for corporations 10 times their size. He began building it alone, coding 16 hours a day, sleeping 6, eating whatever required the least preparation. He called the product Arcline OS. Version 0.1 was ugly, slow, and crashed twice a day. He kept building. The first version of Arcline OS was nowhere near ready, but Noah Aryan Malik had never once in his life waited for perfect before he started moving. Noah approached 11 potential clients in the spring of 2018. 8 didn't respond. 2 said they were happy with their current solutions. 1, a logistics company in Mississauga, agreed to a demo call and then told Noah after 20 minutes that Arcline OS felt half-finished and they would revisit in a year. Noah thanked them, ended the call, opened his laptop, and worked for 9 more hours that day. He did not adjust his timeline. He did not lower his price. He went back to the product, identified every gap the Mississauga company had noticed, and fixed them, one by one, over the next 6 weeks, until the product that had felt half-finished felt whole. Every rejection Noah Aryan Malik received was a free product roadmap delivered by someone who didn't realize they were helping him build something extraordinary. In September 2018, a small freight brokerage company in Etobicoke named Lakeview Cargo agreed to a 3-month pilot of Arcline OS at $800 per month. It was not a large amount. It was the most important amount of Noah's life. He onboarded Lakeview Cargo personally, answered every support message within the hour, built 2 custom features they requested at no extra charge, and by the end of the 3-month pilot had a client who renewed at $1,200 per month and, more importantly, referred 2 other companies to him unprompted. By December 2018, Arcline Technologies had 3 paying clients and $3,600 in monthly recurring revenue. Noah printed a 1-page revenue report, folded it, and put it in the drawer of his desk. His empire had officially begun. 3 clients, $3,600 a month. and a 22-year-old in Scarborough who knew with absolute certainty that this was only the very first page. By mid-2019, Noah could no longer do it alone. Arcline OS had 14 clients, $16,800 in monthly recurring revenue, and a product backlog that would take one person 4 years to complete. He hired his first employee, a developer named Priya Sharma from Brampton, who was 2 years out of Ryerson and twice as fast as anyone Noah had interviewed. He paid her $68,000 a year, more than he was paying himself. 3 months later, he hired a second developer named Sam Osei from Scarborough, someone Noah had actually gone to R.H. King Academy with, who had taught himself to code on YouTube. Noah rented a small 2-room office on Danforth Avenue in East Toronto for $1,400 a month. Arcline Technologies now had 3 people, 1 product and a mission that Noah described to his new team on their first morning together in 4 words: we build, we grow. The moment Noah Aryan Malik stopped being a solo founder and became a leader was the moment the ceiling of what Arcline could become disappeared entirely. In March 2020, COVID-19 shut down Canada. Within 45 days, 6 of Arcline's 22 clients suspended their contracts. Not cancelled, suspended, citing financial uncertainty. Monthly recurring revenue dropped from $28,200 to $17,000 in a single month. Noah had payroll for 3 people, office rent, and software infrastructure costs totaling $19,800 per month. He was $2,700 in the red before he paid himself a single dollar. He did not lay anyone off. Instead, he called Priya and Sam into the office on a Thursday morning, laid every number on the table with complete transparency, and asked them to take a 20% temporary pay cut with a written commitment that it would be restored with a bonus the moment revenue recovered. They both said yes without hesitation. Noah went home that night, sat on the floor of his apartment, and stared at the ceiling for a long time. The moment Noah Aryan Malik stared at that ceiling in March 2020 was not the end of Arcline Technologies. It was the night the company found out what it was actually made of. While 6 clients suspended, Noah noticed something during the lockdown. The businesses that were surviving, logistics, essential retail, healthcare administration, were drowning in operational chaos because their systems weren't built for remote work. He spent 3 weeks building a remote operations module directly into Arcline OS, a feature set specifically designed for teams managing business operations from home. He emailed every suspended client, every prospect who had ever said no, and every business owner in his network with a single message: your team is now remote. Arcline OS is ready for that. First 60 days free. 4 suspended clients reactivated immediately. 7 new clients signed within 30 days. By August 2020, Arcline Technologies was at $34,000 in monthly recurring revenue, higher than it had ever been before the pandemic began. While the pandemic tried to close the door on Arcline Technologies, Noah Aryan Malik found a window and walked every client he had through it. From August 2020 to December 2021, Arcline Technologies grew faster than Noah had projected in even his most optimistic spreadsheet. The remote operations module became the company's flagship feature, the thing that differentiated Arcline OS from every competing product in the Canadian SMB software market. Word spread through referrals, through a feature in a Toronto tech blog called BetaKit, and eventually through a segment on CBC's The National about Canadian tech companies that had thrived during the pandemic. By the end of 2021, Arcline Technologies had 94 paying clients, a team of 11 employees, and annual recurring revenue of $1.4 million Canadian dollars. Noah was 25 years old. The boy from 91 Neilson Drive in Scarborough had just crossed $1 million in annual revenue, and not a single person who knew him at 14 would have said it was a surprise. In February 2022, Noah received an email from a partner at a Toronto-based venture capital firm called Relay Ventures, a firm he had read about at 19 in a Scarborough library and thought of as belonging to a world completely separate from his own. The email was 4 sentences long and ended with, "We'd like to schedule a call. Noah replied within the hour. The call lasted 45 minutes. The Relay Ventures partner, a woman named Catherine Briggs, asked Noah 11 questions, all of which he answered with specific numbers from memory without once opening a document. 3 weeks later, Relay Ventures offered Arcline Technologies $2.1 million in Series A, a funding in exchange for an 18% equity stake. Noah spent 4 days reviewing the term sheet with a lawyer before signing. Then he called his father Tariq, who was still driving the city bus, and told him over the phone. Tariq was silent for 12 seconds and then said very quietly, "That's my boy." The moment a venture capital firm in downtown Toronto put $2.1 million behind a kid from Neilson Drive in Scarborough was the moment the world officially confirmed what Noah had always known about himself. The night the funding closed, Noah drove his Honda Civic, the same car he had been driving for 4 years, to 38 Brymorton Drive in Scarborough and sat at the kitchen table with his parents for the first time in 3 months. His mother Linda had made biryani. His father Tariq sat across from him in the same chair he had always slept in after his factory shifts, except Tariq no longer worked at the factory. He had retired 8 months earlier, partly because his body needed it and partly because Noah had quietly made sure he could afford to. Noah placed a copy of the signed investment term sheet on the table. Neither of his parents fully understood every line, but they understood the number, $2.1 million, and they understood what it meant about the boy they had raised in this small apartment on this ordinary street in Scarborough. Linda held Noah's face in her hands. Tariq said nothing, but his eyes, which had been tired for as long as Noah could remember, were not tired that night. The investment was $2.1 million, but the look in Aryan Malik's eyes that night was worth every single hour his son had ever spent building toward it. With $2.1 million in funding and a clear product market fit, Arcline Technologies spent 2022 and 2023 scaling with precision. Noah hired 23 additional team members, developers, a sales team, a customer success manager, a CFO named Diana Okafor, who had previously worked at Shopify. He moved the company into a proper office on King Street West in downtown Toronto, 4,200 square feet of open-plan workspace that, on the first morning the team walked in, made Noah stand at the entrance for a full 30 seconds without speaking. Arcline OS expanded into 3 industry-specific versions: logistics, healthcare administration, and professional services. By the end of 2023, the company had 340 active clients and annual recurring revenue of $6.8 million Canadian dollars. The company that started as one person coding alone on a kitchen table in Scarborough now had 34 employees, 3 product lines, and $6.8 million in annual revenue, and it was only 5 years old. In early 2024, Noah Aryan Malik launched the Arcline Foundation, a non-profit funded personally by Noah that provided free coding boot camps for 18 to 24-year-olds from Scarborough and the East End of Toronto who could not afford traditional tech education. The first cohort had 22 students. By the end of the year, 11 of them had landed junior developer roles at Toronto tech companies, including 2 at Arcline Technologies itself. Noah ran the first session personally in a rented room at the Scarborough Civic Centre Library, the same library where he had checked out programming books at 14. He stood at the front of that room in his plain, dark, grey hoodie and said to 22 young people who looked exactly like the version of him that nobody had believed in, "The only difference between where you are and where you want to be is what you're willing to learn and how long you're willing to keep going." The most powerful thing Noah Aryan Malik ever built was not a software company. It was the proof delivered in person that the door out of Scarborough was open for anyone willing to walk through it. Noah Aryan Malik turned 28 years old on a grey March morning in 2024, 28 years after he was born in apartment 91 on Neilson Drive in Scarborough, Ontario. Arcline Technologies that month processed its $10 millionth in annual recurring revenue. His father, Tariq, had not driven a bus in over a year. His mother, Linda, had retired from the cafeteria in June. His team of 34 people came to work every day in an office on King Street West that had Noah's name on the incorporation documents. He still drove the Honda Civic. He still wore the dark grey hoodie. He had never once, not for a single day from 14 to 28, stopped building. And sitting in his office on that March morning, looking out at a Toronto skyline that had always been there but now felt like it belonged to him too, Noah thought about the boy on the front step of Neilson Drive with the quiet, certain eyes. That boy had been right about everything. And he had never needed anyone's permission to begin. Noah Aryan Malik did not build an empire because he was exceptional. He built it because he was relentless, and relentless, it turns out, beats exceptional every single time.